So is it possible for Donald Trump to run for a third term? Can he run for a third term? The answer is no. No, he cannot. The 22nd Amendment says that he cannot. Oh, the word consecutive isn't a part of the 22nd Amendment? Well, neither is chair, neither is horse. This is according to Civics Review. You got a YouTube channel called Civics Review. Check him out. So if you read the language of this, which it's right there in front of you, just go ahead and read it. But it's saying that if you're elected twice, then you can't be elected again. And if you happen to be the vice president and something happens to the president, if you serve more than 2 years, so therefore the majority of the term, that's considered a full term. And so therefore you cannot serve more than 2 terms. But if it's less than 2 years, well, then you haven't actually served a full term. So there is a loophole. But let's take a listen to Civics Review and how he explains it, okay?
But I was a weirdo and liked history and government in school. I blame my awesome social studies teachers. But I will attempt to explain this mathematically. The number 2 represents 2 units of 1. Whether or not the units are consecutive or apart, the value does not change. It's always just 2. And any additional unit added, whether consecutive or not, will always be more than 2. More than or greater than 2 represents all numbers that hold more units than 2. You see, I'm already boring myself talking about numbers. Mike Davis, Steve Bannon, some remedial mathematics goes a long way. The only thing that's really, and this is a stretch, vaguely unclear is the portion of the 22nd Amendment surrounding the acting as president for more than 2 years portion. For any VP that has to officially assume the presidency, whether that is from a president dying, becoming incapacitated, or unfit to perform the presidential duties, or impeachment, the VP becomes acting president for the remainder of the presidential term. You can find more info on this in some weird 25th Amendment scenarios in my video at the top of your screen. Anyways, the 22nd Amendment does allow a vice president who became president to serve less than 2 years to be elected as president twice.
Okay, so that's important, and that's what this other guy, this Legal Eagle guy, let's take a look. This Legal Eagle guy says the same thing. And what this Legal Eagle guy is saying that here is what it's theoretically possible. He could serve a third term. He couldn't be elected as president. So let's just say he serves his second term, and the nominee for the Republican Party is J.D. Vance, which is you would presume it would be him, right? He's the vice president. So Donald serves his full term to 2025, 26, 27, and 28. He does his 4 terms, and that's it. He can't run again. He can't be elected again. But J.D. Vance runs for office. J.D. Vance gets the Republican nomination. J.D. Vance wins the presidency. And who did J.D. Vance pick for vice president? Maybe he picked Donald. And then something had happened to J.D. Vance, like the 4 things that the Civics Review guy had suggested. He's impeached or unfit for duty. Somehow he's not the president anymore. The vice president needs to become the president. Well, then that's a way that Donald could theoretically serve a third term, but he would have to be a number 2 guy. He would have to be a number 2 guy to the number 1 guy, and then something would have to happen to the number 1 guy. That's the only way that Donald could technically, and through a loophole, be president. But that's, for a third term, or a 4th term, or a 5th term. But if he was able to do a 4th term, then that means he would have had to been vice president again with another person. And now that sounds like some funny business, doesn't it? You were the vice president twice, and something happened to the president 2 times in a row. And then if he becomes president for the 4th term, did he ever release those damn JFK files? Because some kind of funny business is happening there. And then if he wins the 4th term, do you think that the 5th term, you think anybody is going to pick him to be the VP after 2 presidents has, been incapacitated in some way, shape, or form? So that's highly remote, highly suspect. And to think that Donald would take the number 2 position, I think is foolish. No. J.D. Vance would run. J.D. Vance would pick his own successor, and it wouldn't be Donald. Donald is sick of the presidency. He wants to go retire on a farm somewhere in upstate New York. So, short answer is no, it's not possible. The language is absolutely clear. He can't run for office. He can't be elected to office. He could only try to do this vice presidential loophole, which means that he would have to be second banana, and he'd have to sit in a chair and learn some parliamentary procedure, and then hope that something happens to the main man. So, there is a slight chance of him being able to possibly run for a third or fourth term, but he would need to know the Constitution. He would need to have the willpower to, push this loophole all the way through. And most likely what would happen is J.D. Vance would become president, and he would serve out his 4 terms, and then Donald would just be the vice president for the entire 4 years. If he even tried to do that. But most likely, he's not going to be the vice president. He's going to quit after 4 years because, well, he has to. If he doesn't quit after 4 years and he tries to run again, if he tries to get elected again, if he tries to run a campaign again, if he tries to stop the steal again, if he tries to cheat the government again, if he tries to lie again, if he tries to declare war powers, emergency powers, some sort of martial law, he's fucking cheating. We need to have elections. The Constitution says you get 4 fucking years, but after 4 years, Donald, you got to retire. You got to sit down. Why? Because that's the Constitution. And if there's one thing about Americans, we love our Constitution. The Constitution is sacred. The Bill of Rights, the preamble. Oh, yes, the Constitution, the Constitution, the Constitution.